do it again.
Area for advice, understanding, help, food, you name it. I'm a writer of short stories on the American Ave Maria. The man must have gotten on somewhere in Arizona, or maybe he'd been on the bus already when they, the two of them, had boarded the Greyhound. He was thin, not very tall, and had an exact, flat crew cut so short you couldn't be sure he was blond. He was a soldier in uniform, and he was sitting in the row behind him. How hot it really was outside only became clear during the 3 or 4 scheduled stops during the day when everyone filed out to have a bite or a coffee in a roadside diner. The other passengers on the bus with them were a number of older ladies traveling alone, a black family, several old men wearing cowboy-style straw hats, both Mexican and Anglo, and an Indian reverend. On these occasions, all went out, maintaining the single file established in the center aisle of the coach, and made the short trip from air-conditioned bus to air-conditioned restaurant, and then back again across the few yards of true white heat. The landscape outside, barren, featureless, and tinted green, seen through the windows of their bubble, ever humming forward, in reality held many shades of tan and rose and silver silk. Vast flats of loosely dotted sage, dusty near the road, rolled out to sudden red rock bluffs and on toward faraway blue mesas belonging to another life. During one of those stops, in the middle of the day, they had noticed a little family of 4 getting on the bus. The parents, short and brown, a boy of 10 and his sister, probably 13, maybe 14, a Spanish family. The driver made announcements about the stops ahead and the times of arrival there, and he could be seen looking through his inside mirror at the passengers. Above that mirror were 2 small signs, one reading, "This vehicle stops at all railroad crossings," the other, "Do not speak to the driver." From where the 2 of them were sitting, they could watch through the windshield how every now and then outside a passing car came floating by from behind, soundless against the bus's endless hum, then regaining their right side of the intermittent middle line and hovering away into oblivion. Someone further back was tuning a radio. A young man the other side of the aisle slept with his head against the window pane, and at the very rear of the coach was a steady talker, but it seemed too much of an effort to turn around and look. The boy and the girl of the little Mexican family, the newcomers among the passengers, had found seats in the next row behind them and across from the sleeping soldier. And the mother, and what now became clear had to be the grandfather, sat in the seats behind the children. The driver was in radio communication with someone, probably his dispatcher, and the chatter was in a low and flat drawl, and when there was a laugh, it was too late to listen. The 2 of them themselves hadn't spoken much in the past hours, thinking of in drifting spells about not to forget, about timetables to watch, and the friends they would be meeting again at the other end. His wife was sitting by the window, napping for short periods, fidgeting in her dream. Probably it was the young boy who had started it. He must have, because now there was a bit of conversation going with the soldier. It wasn't all that easy to hear, but just the same. In this long distance everything, Nothing specific seemed to matter very much. When they passed a pair of horseback riders galloping alongside the road embankment, the driver shifted a little in his seat and looked back and forth between his outside and inside rearview mirrors. The young Mexican boy, facing the soldier with shining eyes, asked him what he did and where, and if he did a lot of shooting, and if he had shot somebody. And the thin soldier spoke in short spurts and said, sure, sure, but he unmistakably had said at some point that he was a Marine. Turning around for a glance could only be done once or twice, and in those instances, the ready gaze of the man meant, what's it to you? To the other side of the Mexican youngster, in the window seat, sat his sister, very upright and not leaning back in her seat. She was looking straight ahead. Small of stature, she had long bluish black hair and rosy cheeks that in a fleck of sunlight seemed to have a little white fuzz. At first glance, she appeared expressionless, but that was a way of concealing her general apprehension about the unfamiliar environment, and only something in her eyes and the unnaturally stiff posture hinted at her uneasy waiting stance. She did not speak and did not move. So, where are you guys going? To Amarillo, Texas, to go and see my uncle in hospital. Is she your sister? Yes, the boy was nodding. What's her name? Maria Consuela. Does she speak English? You have a pretty sister. The boy looked at the soldier who produced quick and nimble movements in his khaki uniform when he spoke. The boy said nothing and must have pondered a number of conflicting thoughts behind the shiny eyes in his overawed face. Something he had to weigh, to reconcile, something unexpected, and to him seemingly odd. She speaks English, but at home we're speaking Spanish. It came to a lull while the coach was filled with always the same drone, processing the miles of road with invariably the same speed, pushing its way across the landscape in the low sun of the late afternoon. There was a short stop for people to stretch their legs and for other business. The Mexicans bought Cokes with straws and unwrapped something they had brought with them to eat. The Marine soldier wandered about erratically, awkwardly exaggerating the sideways swing in his gait. One of the older ladies, needy of reassurance, asked him something, and he nodded and resumed his ambling between the street-side tables. It was not that hot any longer, and the evening light painted luminous fringes around the deep dark green of the junipers in the front yard down the street. There was a smell of watering gardens, and all around rested the angelic peace the little town had to offer. The bus was waiting, humming in front of the small Greyhound office, idling to keep the air conditioning going. After the break, a new driver is coming on board with freshly ironed uniform shirt and pants, putting his hat down on top of the dashboard. Turning on the radio, he tunes into a station. The volume is quite low, and so the program will define for him a private bubble for many hours to come. Sportscasts, jingles, interviews, and news. Mostly female groups harmonizing. Everyone is back in the coach, turned dusky bit by now. Some reading lamps are coming on. The Marine soldier is getting the young Mexican boy to sit next to him on his side of the middle aisle. Maria Consuela sits where she sat before, more relaxed now. And when she speaks to her mother, it is obvious she's a child. The soldier leans into the boy in an insistent and quick and fitful way, while the young Mexican seems to be hesitant and unsure. Seen out of the corner of one's eye, the uniformed man even appears to be speaking with one hand held before his mouth. Then the fragment. Tell Mary, Tell your sister. The girl had never turned or looked over once, always looking straight ahead. What the young boy said could not be heard, but it took some doing until he changed back to sit next to Maria Consuela again. Eavesdropping always leaves an unpleasant residue, and this holds more true even for one's own thoughts and reactions when something is looming, and out come all the self-admonishments of not my business, against prudery and self-righteousness, followed by a purposeful turn toward redoubled activity with one's own practical matters. Now the boy had spoken to his sister and returned to sitting next to the American Marine soldier. They're talking and whispering. It is totally dark in the bus now, except for the footlights in the center aisle. Listening to the driver's radio makes it seem like overhearing a neighbor in his living room. All the dials on the dash are glowing, and beyond the windshield cruise sporadic red dots of light, and out of the darkness ahead, periodical white pairs of headlights come flying by. The hum is always the same. The soldier is sitting next to Maria Consuela now on the other side. Maybe they talk, maybe not. What does the mother think and the grandfather in the row behind? It's too dark to discern anything. Best to look at the map, turn on the little overhead reading lamp. We're in Texas now, and another night and more to